Welcome to the first live stream, to the first episode of the Jovi Vid show. I'm Jovi Vid, so this is my show. And today I have a few ideas, a few points that I want to share with you. And to the beginning, I want to introduce myself. I'm all about business, faith, and family. I love to talk about those three topics. And so I thought nothing better to talk about all of them in a live stream, in a show, to just share more and more with you about those. So as a quick preview of what will this show be about, what will we cover, we will talk about patience, we'll talk about helping people better, and about getting things done. Those are all pretty vague. I know that. I'll cover them more in detail as I keep going. As a special segment today, I want to talk to you about a book that I just read. It's The Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. And I have a few special takeaways for you from that. So we'll cover that in just a minute. In case you're wondering why I'm looking down, if you're watching this on YouTube or on Twitter, you notice that I have a few notes prepared, like I'm a real talk show host. So I'm not looking like I'm fumbling ideas, but I'm actually prepared with those different segments for the show. So before we get into it, get your notebook out, turn the distractions off, and let's go. As the first segment of the show, I want to introduce the Builder's Brick. The Builder's Brick is a new segment that I want to introduce because it will cover a business topic that I have come across in the last week that I think is worth sharing and talking about. So today we want to talk about the focusing on 3 things per day. Not more, not less, but 3 things. So what are the 3 things? There are only 3 areas of your business that need constant improvement. Yes, I know you can cover your business, like you need to talk about finances, you need to talk about business management, like the back office a bit of bookkeeping, housekeeping. But there are only 3 things that you need to do on a consistent base that actually requires a lot of attention. And those 3 areas I'll cover in a little bit because each of them have a task to them. First, I want to talk about why they matter. Often we think too much. We over-prepare, we over-plan, and we try to get too many things done per day, and we don't actually get them done that matter. And we need to cover specific topics. We need to be diligent with the tasks that we can do. So we try to do way too much, so we need to narrow it down. But the question is, how do I narrow it down to where it actually makes sense, to where I actually can get them done? And that's kind of the big challenge here. So that's why there are only 3 areas and 3 tasks that you need to look daily to do to keep growing your business. Task 1 is marketing. Marketing is making your business known. Marketing is getting everything done that leads to a sale, because then we'll cover that step later on. But then there is a transition where you shake hands with your client that is no longer a lead, no longer a follower, no longer a viewer, but actually over on the other side now as a client inside the business. So marketing is doing everything that prepares your future clients to work with you. That's my definition for it, of making yourself known, putting yourself out there, and actually also following up with people to where they actually leave money with you, essentially, or where they see themselves to work with you for longer. Task number 2 is all about your clients. Now that we made yourself known, we have the sales process. Now it comes the onboarding. The onboarding part is the part where, to me, there's no longer marketing, but client success. Client success I like better than sales, or that I like better than client work because it's focused more specifically. We are focused to make sure to help our clients better, to help them succeed faster, to help them get the results faster, to help them make sure that the result that we promised will actually happen. So that's the idea that we do here. So the second task of your day is to make your clients happier than they are now. So do something, get them a piece closer, a step closer to where they wanted to go. That's all we're doing in this second task. So the third task, and number 3 out of our 3 tasks, is about your product. Make something new to help your clients in a new way or improved way. So why do I split client work or client success and product? Because product is building something that will last and building your legacy, like writing a book, creating a course. It's all accompanying your existing clients that you help on a one-on-one or on a group base specifically. So those two go hand in hand, and they make sense together. And so that's where I differentiate them, because client work is something on an ongoing basis for a small group of people or an individual. Whereas a product work is building something that will outstand your time or your lifetime, that will outlast just the one-on-one client session. Like if this book is written, this book will help a client out, but it also will help someone out that is just becoming a customer, or that is just introduced or getting introduced to your whole philosophy, to your whole systems, to your programs. And so that's where a book is a good idea to work on as a product, because the difference is also client work always depends on your time and on your input, where a product is a standalone deal result that you can actually give them away to where they can actually just implement it on their own without needing any further help or further explanation. So now that we have all 3 of those tasks done by the day, every day we start out with 1, 2, 3. Those are things that fill in the slots, and then you just do the next thing that's to do for that slot. So if you want to move forward with these 3 tasks, I believe, and in my experience, you have 80% of your business move forward per day. The remaining 20% is housekeeping and bookkeeping, means to keep your desk clean, to put away files, to become to study up on further things like reading a book yourself, or doing your bookkeeping and finances and taxes and all those things. They shouldn't require more than 20% of your time anyways. And so by putting them in those last 20%, you'll be fine. I promise you. That's what I've done over the last years. And that's where I've seen the most success, because it actually keeps your business going and going, and it won't stop, because you're actually focused on doing everything to move clients forward, to help clients better, to help clients in new ways, or adding something to it and making it more streamlined for your client to actually get the result that they came to you for. Now it's time for the catch of the week. The catch of the week is a segment where I share an idea that I stumbled across and that I think is noteworthy. So I took it as my notes, and I think you should write it down too. It's a quote today by Kevin Sabo from Twitter. Losers give 40% and they think they did enough. Winners give 120% and they think they aren't doing enough. I think that just resonated with me, because it's something where when I didn't try, it didn't matter. And so most of the time, I actually only got like maybe 40% done. That's already a good percentage. And I thought like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like I'm okay. I did enough. To where I'm now, where I'm like trying my best to do everything I can. I'm actually doing a lot more than I need for a job, or that I would need to fulfill like my hourly duties, because I'm so much more invested in getting results and seeing things through and making things excellent, that now 100% is barely scratching the top in my feeling. And I know that with that, I'm not even, and that's kind of the mindset again of like, and I think, and they think they aren't doing enough. And that's actually true, where I feel like I'm never done. I'm not finished, and I can keep doing more and more things, so that it's actually kind of scary to see everything going through and not being able to actually get all the things done that I wanted to get done. So yeah, goes out there to Kevin. It's a really good quote that I just had to catch for my week. The next segment is a segment because I'm building everything on business, family, and faith and family. The next segment is anchored in the Word. So I have the Bible with me here, and this week's verse is in Proverbs 12, verse 25. And it says, "Anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good word makes him glad." And I thought about that a lot in my morning Bible study, and it's something where it just resonated, because it's such a obvious statement, but I feel like we don't do it often enough. It's a Proverbs from Solomon, from the king of Israel, that wrote it down to teach his son important lessons of life. And the theme of it is specifically, like, we all deal with anxiety, and it tears us down, it weighs us down. It's sometimes so hard to deal with, because it just needs a bad comment and all my worst nightmares come true again, of like, oh, I'm not good enough, and I can't do this, and I'm about to fail. And there are so many things running through my mind at this point again, that anxiety is just hard on us. And we're worrying about so many things. If we can make next month's rent, if we can actually go on a vacation sometime, or if the world is falling apart, and all those worries and all those things just build up anxiety in us. And so there is a simple truth to all of it, and it says that a good word makes him glad. And I think that's so sad, because for us men, one good word would make us glad, would be comforting to us. And how often do we not receive the good word that just comforts us? And I think that's a point where I'm also second guessing myself. I'm anxious to hear bad words when I publish a video, when I publish a course, when I launch something, and I'm worried that it fails. And if it's received the way I want it to, and if it gets people the results that I plan to get. And all those things do worry me a lot, and they build up anxiety. And how important it is just to have a good comment in a video saying, oh yeah, that's so good, and that resonated with me, or you got it. And just like those little things add sometimes so much value and so much encouragement. And that's also why I think it's so important that if we're out there in the world, we should build each other up, and we should not try to go against each other. We need to be helpful. We need to encourage. We need to give a good word to a man. And that we can do on Twitter, on a tweet. We can just write underneath and say, hey, good job, man. I got you. Like, this is what I love today. And we can just start with simple things like this. We can keep it going with different interactions, because in the end, that is what makes human connection so valuable, that we can cheer each other up in hard times, and we can make somebody feel seen and recognize that they did something. And that is just so much more cheerful, and it doesn't even cost anything. And so that's where I think it's just an anchor in the text today, that we can remember to help a brother out and give them a good word, because that will go so far further than they actually think they could go. Now, as a mid-roll ad, this show is actually sponsored by myself. I don't have any other sponsors. I'm running my own thing. So if you want to support me, if you want to get more of me, you find a link below to my newsletter. Sign up there, and I will hit you with my handwritten newsletter per day that comes every day fresh into your new inbox. And I actually promise I wrote all of them by hand, by myself, to have the best value for you to read on the go. They're all just 1 to maximum 2 minutes of a read, but they're all just one point to give you a point of thought, give you an idea, give you a tip per day in your inbox. So if you like that, just subscribe down below and you'll be on my newsletter. Another segment that I have and that is dear to me is family. So I called it the Fatherhood Field Notes, because I'm not going to lie, I'm not the best dad, probably. I've failed many times, but I want to share a thought or a situation that happened throughout the weeks and that I think is helpful, that I drew a lesson from, that I want to share, so we can all learn from each other while we're out there parenting. And it's, not always easy with kids. So being a father is a great joy that I do treasure a lot. There are, however, hard times as well. And so fatherhood is probably the most rewarding thing I'm doing, but it's also the most challenging and trying thing I'm actually doing. So what happened? Our son right now is a stage where he doesn't say yes to everything I'm telling him to do, but instead he lets people wait. He ignores me and runs away from it to just be like, oh yeah, like I don't want to do that. So he starts to be stubborn, and I know that everybody's calling it, oh yeah, the terrible twos, which so far I don't think they're that terrible. They're challenging, but not terrible. But he definitely sometimes gets the better of my side, where I just don't react in the way I should, and it's just so challenging to stay patient when he's not. When he's just trying to push my buttons and trying to get on my nerves to move me forward. So where it's just a teaching moment for myself every time I'm like, oh yeah, like I think I have it figured out, and then I don't. So the lesson from it all is that in all things, I need to learn to be patient. It's a hard lesson to learn, but it is so important to, in all the tests that our kids throw at us, to just stay calm and patient with them, to not lose ourselves, lose our temper, because we think that we know it better. We just need to stay easy and patient with them. I can't lose my temper just because he's losing his. And so I can't run my business losing my temper at every customer, at every client, at every viewer of my videos either. Like I need to keep them going. And so it's the same thing here too. It's patience is a virtue, and that's not for nothing, because patience is the ground element that actually makes such of a big difference. And so, yeah, there is nothing greater than being patient, but it's also nothing more challenging than being patient when you're tested with your son not listening. And so that's my fatherhood field note of this week. Next up, I have the book stack. My book stack is always piling up. I always have more books to read. And so today I want to put another book on your book stack, and that's Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. He used to be the owner of EMP, which is a 4-star restaurant in New York. He started out running tables in a small restaurant and managed to work his way up through many different stations. So he's a full restaurateur. And his point is that restaurants are more than just food. So that's the basic idea that he's following. And to the idea of unreasonable hospitality, I want to read you a quote of the book because I just think it captures the idea better. So the setting is that he overheard a client or a restaurant visitor talk about they tried everything, but the thing that they didn't try yet in New York, and they're about to leave, and their last stop that they think they can do is the EMP, is his restaurant. And they say that the last thing that they haven't tried yet was a hot dog from one of the hot dog carts in New York, where everybody's like, ooh, really? So he said, so he gave them the hot dog and got them the hot dog nicely plated from the kitchen out, and they were so excited. And so he reflects on that, and he says, again, not expensive necessarily, but personalized. That hot dog cost $2, but there was probably only one table in the history of restaurants that I could have presented it to. People often confuse hospitality with luxury, but I could have given that table a bottle of vintage Krug and a kilo of caviar, and it wouldn't have had anywhere near the same impact. Luxury means just giving more. Hospitality means being more thoughtful in giving. That's what I would add. So I think that captures the idea that he carries for hospitality. And so why does that matter for us today? It matters because we all deal with clients, we all deal with customers, we all deal with relationships. And there's so often the point of you need to give more. It's always talked about in the social media world, give more value, stack the value. But in reality, it's not about the amount of value you give, but the helpfulness or the thoughtfulness, the specificity of your content, of your giving, that you give the thing right on time. And so takeaway number one from this book for me was, it's not about giving more, but about giving more specific and being personal about it. That you can make a difference to one customer of yours to just be helpful in this specific way. It might not work for every customer, and it just adds a little personality, a personal touch to everything you do. And I think that just goes a long way, and it just adds so much more personality to your business. Takeaway number two is that before you can be unreasonable, your overall experience has to be good. You can't be unreasonable before actually doing the basics. Being unreasonable is just stepping up one more step. Why I think that's the takeaway from myself is that no matter what we do, if we don't actually get our clients the promised results, it doesn't matter how good we make them feel. So that's also true for his restaurant. He says 95% have to be exactly on point, have to be accounted for, and every 95% have to be the basic experience. We get to vary on 5% of the overall experience, but that's the matter where we can be unreasonable about. That's the matter where we can make a difference in how we approach our clients, because it's those little things that make a difference, that stay in memory, that become a story that you tell. The story that shares further, and that is giving you word of mouth. And it's not 95% of what you do, it's 5% of what you do. So 95% need to be there for you to actually do the extra task. Takeaway number three is, it is about creating stories and making memories. It's not about being great when there's nothing memorable about what you do. I think that often we confuse perfectionism to deliver a flawless experience for one that's more human and more memorable. We try to make everything seem so flawless, seem so perfect. But in that, we often fail to be memorable, to have a story to tell about your experience. And that's something that I think, taking away from this book, is something that I do want to try to implement more and more, to have a good, solid experience to get the results. But then on top, put the cherry there where it belongs. But the cherry is just that, the cherry on top. It's not the overall experience. But the cherry on top should be so memorable that it's not the cherry for everybody, that it's the hot dog for somebody, the cherry for the next person, the caviar for another person, depending on what the experience actually looks like for them and what they need specifically. So there you go. That's the book stack for this week. It's The Unreasonable Hospitality. I just can recommend this book. It's a nice read. He has actually quite a good storytelling to himself because he had so many experiences throughout the years. So it's not actually a teaching book. It's more actually a telling book of his experiences and the lessons that he took away from them. So it's a pleasant read, and I recommend it. Definitely pick it up. Now I want to come to another segment of the show where I want to have an open Q&A where you can ask Yovi anything, and I will try to answer to my best knowledge and experience. And I also have some questions prepared in case we don't get questions from a live stream, so I'll mix them up. But in the question one that I do get often over the last years is one where do I start with any business? I know a lot of people often go like, oh yeah, I would love to start a business, but I don't know how. I don't know where. I don't know what I actually should do as a first step. And so I understand that that's often challenging to start because we're often confusing many things with tasks and with ideas that we think, oh yeah, that's possible, that's possible. And there are so many ideas also on the internet where, yeah, we have endless opportunities. So where do I start with my business? It's a simple question, and I hope to give a simple answer. And the simple answer is just start with understanding the person you're trying to help the best you can. Let me restate that. The best way to start your business is by getting to know the person you're trying to help, and the best, most meaningful way to make a difference in their lives. So what does that mean? It means to understand how old is that person? Where does that person live? How much money does that person have? What problems do they have? What inspires them for the future? What desires do they have? What are they dreaming of? And then helping them achieve that. That's as simple as business gets. It's just understanding your dream client better and better and better. So that's what I've also done. I started with a simple idea of a business, checked my person, and I failed with that many times over because I overcomplicated many things. And so I needed to focus in on doing the right things for my person first before doing the things that I thought they need. And so that's definitely the answer to where you're starting your business is the best way. Question number 2 is, what should I talk about for videos? And I've seen that often in the whole internet, like online business community. It's often the question like, oh yeah, but what do I talk about? What ideas? I don't even have ideas. I don't know where to start. And I've gotten that question so often. And it's connected to the answer I gave to question 1, where do you start? By understanding your ideal client, ideal customer, and actually understanding them better and better over time. Because if you understand the problem of your ideal client, you actually have a topic to talk about because that problem needs an answer. This is what I'm doing here too. I often take questions that I got from clients that I can use now for content. So that's what you should talk about, is all the problems the clients face, how you would answer them, how you would solve them, how you would go about them, why they exist, why they matter, what makes the difference. Those are definitely the starting points for this idea. And then you can just go back and say, like, what did I do about them 2 years ago? What did I do about them? What did I learn? And so you find many angles, but they all start with understanding the problems and the dreams from your clients. And then from there, you can take it bigger. Question number 3 that I often receive is, how do I get to work on my business? Often the context is in the sense of, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have enough time. So where do I actually begin? Where do I start? What do I do? And so the number one thing is to not do too much, to not try to do too much. So I always start with my clients at the point to say, like, hey, just take whatever time you have and focus on the next problem that your business faces. The first problem your business faces is exactly that, understanding your dream customer. Then the problem becomes, well, how do I solve the problem? So then you try to figure out solutions that you can build. And in my course and in my coaching, I have a step-by-step guidance of that, where we take one step at a time. And over the course of 90 days, I actually help you figure out how to set up a 6-figure business. And so how do you get to work on your business is by one problem at a time, one task at a time, one step at a time. Don't try to plan out the next 50 steps. Just take the biggest problem you have in your business and do the first step towards solving it. And that's what I always tell, is just get started somewhere. It's more important that you take action than it is actually to have it all figured out. Because let me calm that one down. You won't ever have it all figured out. That's an illusion. You won't get there. Believe me. There's always something to do. There's always a problem around the corner. Once you have solved the first problem, the second problem will await you. And so it doesn't matter to assume, or it doesn't help to assume the second and third and fifth problem if you haven't done the first one right. So there you go. That's Ask Jovi, a few questions that I frequently get asked and that I need to answer again and again, because I think they're just so important to narrow down, to get right in the beginning. So there you have it. This is the first episode of the Jovi Vit show. I'm glad you were listening in to the day, and I have so much more coming. At some point, we'll get through so many topics. I have them all lined up. So just subscribe and follow this podcast wherever you're listening. Keep chopping wood, keep going great, and strive for greatness. Until next time.